Hello and welcome to season 4 of Own Your Divine Light show. This is a show to accelerate ascension to help you during these times of chaos and pandemic. And I am Isla Serona Miller, and this is my magical name of Janet, and I am stepping into that name and introducing it to you all. And we've all been going through so much, and it's been feeling like things are starting to lift a little, but there's still so much unknown on the horizon. And we are meant to create a new way of being. And today, our guest has fully stepped into her role as a teacher, community builder, and mindset coach. And I want to welcome Marisa Jones. So I'm going to just say a quick hi to you, Marisa, and then I'm going to just keep telling them more about you. And Marisa Jones is a teacher, a community builder, mindset coach, as I said. And after leading a successful career in IT, she left the corporate life after publishing her memoir, Lotus Tattoo, One Woman's Grit from Bully to Redemption, to focus on her domestic violence and mental health advocacy work. And Marisa has since developed several workshops, courses, and a 6-month intensive boot camp called Mindset Warrior, like that name, in the art of intentional thinking to help those seeking to find a purpose and authenticity in life. Her program focuses on unleashing hidden burdens carried around from the past life events. She partners with nonprofits and healing practitioners to provide contact and resource information for those who are just starting out on their healing journey. Marisa also works with organizations to build programs supporting the services. Her passion includes writing, coaching, training, and speaking on long-term effects of trauma and the importance of getting help for mental illness, reducing the stigma associated with this issue. Marisa currently lives in Colorado, where she spends time with her 2 teenage boys and their dogs. Welcome, Marisa. So excited and so honored to have you here.
Thank you, Janet. I am so excited to be here. As you know, I was a follower of yours from your first season of interviews. Somehow I came across your profile and your interviews, and I was hooked. So the fact that I am a guest on your interview season 4, it's an honor to be here, Janet. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And that fills my heart with so much love, because we have made such a great connection, and I really feel such a long-term friendship here.
Absolutely.
So it's wonderful to have you, and you've done such amazing work. And that's what it's just the things that you're bringing through are so important for people to know about. And you've been on a journey, a heck of a journey, and it's quite the journey, and you've come full circle. And can you tell us a little how you got on that journey?
Sure. So I had a really healthy, I would say on the outside, I had what everybody wanted. I had a marriage, I had kids, I had the house, the career, I had it all. And I went through a divorce, and it was a pretty difficult divorce. It was something I asked for, but this was 11 years ago now. And after my divorce, I fell apart. And why I fell apart was because I was a victim of child abuse when I was young. My dad was an abusive alcoholic, and I was a fighter. And I always thought I was, thriving, and I was surviving, and I was a fighter. And I was always, the title of my book is One Woman, because I was always on the defense, and I was always a bully throughout my whole life. But I was successful. I had, I made a path in life and overcame that, or at least I thought I overcame it. But then when I went through my divorce, I hit what I call my mental rock bottom, and all of those traumas caught up to me, and the burden that I was carrying from such a young girl, it caught up to me. So I found myself in my mid-40s, and I was lost. I had severe depression, PTSD. I was suicidal, and I couldn't go on. And I had young kids to raise, and I wasn't there for them emotionally. I started drinking, and became, alcoholism runs in my family, and it was something I always struggled on and off with, and it became a problem. And so it was at that point that I decided I needed to change because I was not happy. I was not thriving, and emotionally and mentally, I was suffering. I was a victim in my own mind, and I couldn't break out of it. So I went on a self-help journey. I had nowhere to turn to because I had all this shame of reaching out for help. I didn't want to be exposed. And so I kind of did a lot on my own and eventually came out of it. And that was my life journey. So I spent the last 11 years now focusing on self-help and mental health. And because of that, I just wanted to start sharing my story. So I published my book in 2019, and things have just been, the more I share my story, the more people tell me that they can relate to it and they resonate with it. And they're feeling, stuck and trapped in their life, and they don't really know who they are. And so that's why I started writing courses and came up with my camp. And it's just been an incredible journey. And last year, I did leave my corporate job finally, because it was very toxic. I was in a very, very toxic environment, and I loved my job, but it was a really toxic environment, and I knew I had to get out.
Mhm.
So I did get out, but now I'm able to focus 100% on the mental health advocacy work that I do and the domestic violence advocacy work that I do.
Yeah, show them your book. Do you have your book right there, Marisa, to show people? Because I do.
Not actually.
I let my copy out, and I'm so like mad
Uh,
I didn't have it back in time because I haven't seen this friend.
I honestly don't have one in front of me.
That's all right. Well, you can go on Amazon, right? You sell it on Amazon, and
I do. I do.
you can also order it through Marisa as well. She'll sign a
Yes.
copy if you want to order it. And I will tell you, it's an excellent book. It's such an easy read. You pick it up, you cannot put it down. That's how I found it. It was amazing.
Thank you,
Because she
Janet.
tells everything from the heart. She shares her vulnerabilities, her transparency. And when you say you did it alone, well, you did do your work alone, but you did reach out for help. You did have people with guiding you and helping you through the hard parts, because really it's so wonderful to have help along the way, isn't it? Because like when I got sober, I had to go into AA. I had to have something else because I could never have done it alone. And you
Right.
talk about the shame. The shame is a huge part of this whole dysfunctional atmosphere that we grow up in. We think it's our fault. It's what we all do. We take it on as a
Right.
personal thing, and then we don't want to tell people. And yet, look at what we looked like before. And then when you're finally coming, you straighten yourself out, you look so much better, and we're afraid to talk about it. It's really
Right. Exactly.
I've always noticed that about anyone who's like done some recovery in any way, shape, or form, trauma, alcohol addiction, anything. They're like more embarrassed after, but that's because their mind is clearing, and then they realize what they've done. But it's not that you did anything bad. That was your journey. I mean, you had to go
Right.
through it, right? So
Exactly. And
yeah.
it's really interesting what you said, because the more I started self-help and healing myself, the more it gave me the courage to ask for help from others. And the more I asked for help from others, the more I healed. And the more I healed, the more help I went to ask for. So it's a cycle that's a really good cycle to get into once you get into that cycle. But you have to take the first step. You have to be able to reach out and take that step, or at least acknowledge to yourself that you need help, and start getting help. Because for me, I spent so many years thinking the way I thought and the way I behaved and how I felt was normal.
Mhm.
And I guess it is normal because a lot of people feel that way, but I accepted it. I accepted that that was just who I was. And now after going through years of healing and being on the other side, I realize, wow, I feel so great mentally, physically, emotionally, and it's such a great place to be that I can't even imagine going back to who I was before.
Yeah, and that's so powerful for people to hear, because we're afraid to shed the family dirty laundry kind of thing. And it's not that.
Right.
the dirty laundry kind of thing. It was more, you just had to be ready to be vulnerable. And
Right.
once you felt the effects of the share, that you were heard, I think the big thing is being heard, that you become heard. People are actually listening to you because you're sharing from the heart, that you just need to get this out. So you
Right.
have witnesses. It's like a witness validating that you've been on that journey and it's okay, and you're meant to now let it go. So I think it's all about, I don't know, that's how I see it. I don't know if you see it like that, but you kind of do, because you just said that it's this wonderful cycle, that the more that you saw that, it was helping you, the more you opened up and looked for more help. And
Absolutely. I think it's so healing to talk about it. When you get it out, we carry these burdens. There are these invisible weights that are on our shoulders, and we don't realize how heavy they are.
yeah,
We don't realize how much they impact us until one day you realize that you're not happy, or you're suffering with depression. And once you take that step to overcome that, these burdens become lifted. And that's why everything that I go, I've come up with a bunch of techniques, and I call them the let it go techniques, because that's what you're doing. You're letting go of these burdens that you're carrying. And it's, you have to just accept it, that this was who you were. You did the best you could with what you knew at the time. And you have to let that
exactly.
go. And that's why a lot of, like, I have a whole course on releasing guilt without feeling guilty. Like, that's the entire course, is how to release guilt and not feel guilty about it, because we hold on to that as well. Even when we're healing, we hold on to that guilt. But you can't fully heal unless you let it go. And so it's things like that are really important to let it go, so that you can move forward, and you can, just breathe and feel really good about your life and who you are and the people you surround yourself with.
Oh yeah, so that's almost a great segue into the next question. When you talk about your journey, that you have an environment that impacts your mental health, and if you're living in with a lot of uncertainty or unsafety in your life, how much does that environment affect you? How do you?
A lot. You don't realize when you're in it. Sometimes you might feel like an environment is not healthy for you, but you don't realize how much it's impacted in you, on you, until you walk away from it. For instance, my job, right? Last summer, I knew it was toxic. It was toxic for me and other people as well. And it was impacting me, and I felt forced to stay there, because of the financial reasons and the benefits and so forth. But it came to a point where I had to leave, and it was after I left that I realized how bad it was, and the impact it had on me. But it's that fear, right? That fear of walking away and going into the unknown, because here it was in the middle of COVID, right? The pandemic and lockdowns, and people are losing their jobs left and right. And here I am making a decision to walk away from a 6-figure job. Like, that's crazy. People were telling me how nuts I was. But when it's that bad of an environment that you have to walk away, all of those fears just dissolve, because it's the right thing to do. And so when we talk about fear in uncertainty, when you're confident about your decision, because it's based on authenticity, or it's based on your values of who you are, then those fears don't exist anymore. And that's really, what happened last year. If you think about what happened last year with the lockdowns, and, at first there was so much fear, and it was driving everyone's behaviors. But then what happened? Everyone went back to their values, and they started thinking about their priorities.
Yes.
And their priorities were their family. Their priorities were staying home. Their priorities were not what they were 6 months prior, right? And so when they started focusing on their values, right, with their families or within their communities, and everyone helping each other out, we saw so much of that last year, right? There's so many people helping each other out. People helping out small businesses, and everyone getting creative into how to keep these businesses running. Even amongst all the chaos and the fear, that kind of dissolved because everyone's focus went towards their values. And
Mm,
so that's where a lot of what, I try to work with people when it comes to fear is if you can focus on your values, right? All your fears are aligned to a value that's being attacked. And so if you could focus on your values, then all that fear resolves, it goes away.
that's powerful. Oh my goodness, what you just said. And that to me was the gift of the whole event, that people return to their values. I mean, that
Absolutely.
perfect statement about this whole situation. I mean, things that were important fell away. Like you fully stepped away from a job because you knew it wasn't, your mental health was being affected. You just even your health starts getting affected from things like that. So you decided that you were more important than that. And you know what?
Absolutely.
Because you can go on and do something else. You could create your own business. Well, you did.
I did.
So
Exactly.
you realize that there were things to do. Not everybody wants to do that, but a lot of people, don't realize what they're capable of doing. And I think they saw a lot of that during this time. It's still happening. Even
Right.
today, it's still, I mean, since we're still having there's still stuff going on, but it's a little lighter, it feels a little better. But that's a powerful understanding and knowing, and that you could see it and just step into it and say, I'm doing it. I'm going to do it because it's more important to me than the money, because it really is in the long run.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you make some life changes, right? You cut your budget, you do things to accommodate for that. But I'm so much happier. It's been the best year of my life. Because the environment I was in, from a work perspective was really, really negative. It
Mhm.
was really bad. So, it's been the best decision I've
Mhm.
made.
And that's huge. That's huge. So like what you're saying is, now all your past experiences, you have learned that you can only control your own circumstances.
Absolutely.
So how long, and so that took you another realization, and you're telling us what your tipping point was, and that was realizing I'm more important. Anything
Right.
else you can say about that?
Yeah. It's taken me, even throughout my healing, I'm always learning, right? I'm constantly learning. Healing, I always say healing is a lifetime's journey. You're
Mhm.
always learning, you're always changing, even your values change over time. So you have to realign. You have to kind of check in and realign and reset your life based on that. So from a perspective of making those changes, it's about it's just about reevaluating what your priorities are on a regular basis. When it comes to the chaos around you, all of that doesn't matter if you're focusing on yourself. Because
Mm.
if you're focusing on yourself and you're focusing to you,
I'm
then
You
then
froze a little. Go back a sec. I apologize. You said if you're focusing on yourself and you're focusing on you.
if you're focusing on yourself and you're focusing on you alone, the outside influences don't matter. What's happening, the chaos around you, whether it's your immediate family, whether it's your community, or whether it's the world around you, none of that matters. Because when you're focusing on, again, your priorities, your values, what's important to you, your boundaries. And when you have all of that, defined and set, you go along your path, and all of the other stuff that doesn't meet your requirements, it just falls to the wayside, and you don't get impacted by it. You
Mhm.
don't react to it, because everything you do is based on decisions to support what your priorities. For me, it's my mental health. So for me, I have a set of boundaries regarding people, places, and environments as to what I can and can't do, right? It's what I call my life rules. And so I have a set of boundaries about that. And that's, I don't watch negative TV shows. I haven't turned my TV on since February, honestly. But I do watch podcasts and things like that. I stay away from people that are toxic. I
Mhm.
stay away from situations that are toxic. I've had opportunities where people want to do business with me, but I know it's not the right thing for me to do because they're not healthy for my mental health. And so when you make those decisions, everything else falls into place and none of the other stuff really impacts you that much.
Yeah, that's really that's important stuff. That really is. I mean, when you get yourself sort of aligned in that situation, then your whole life flows, and that's been happening to you. Everything has been opening up. So many doors have been opening, which is exciting and wonderful. So, um, when you were in your going through your upheavals in your life, how much control did you feel you had over your environment then? Like how, like you talk about, you don't have, you have the control if, yeah, if you, how do I put it? You didn't have control. So how did you come to
I
understand?
didn't have control. And, when in the first half of my book, it's called The Victim, right? Because I felt like I was playing the victim the whole time. I technically was a victim, but I didn't have to make decisions based on being a victim, but I did. So for that, I focused on, trying to control everything around me. That was how, because I had no control,
yeah.
I tried to control everything around me.
Yes.
And so throughout my healing, what I've learned is that I can only control myself. And I tend to be a perfectionist, but I've even let that go, because now it's just I take day by day and I try not to control anything. And it actually works out better for me in the long run.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. We all do. I think we all try to control it and we think it's going to help. And then we realize it's so stressful. You got
It
so much
is.
to control. It's like everything's in the air and I want to make sure it's all working, and forget it. It's no fun.
Right. It takes, like you said, it takes a lot of energy, and it's negative energy. When you try to control something, it's almost like worrying and
Yeah.
trying to prevent something that's going to happen in the future, perhaps. But you're trying to control a situation. It's very similar, and it's draining physically and mentally. And so I try not to do much of controlling.
Yeah. And that's so powerful just to see that you know what that is, because I think a lot of people don't even see it because you can't, because when you're in it, you don't see it.
Right.
So when you finally get exhausted enough, you might stop and go, well, what's wrong? What's
Right.
happening here? And then you got that understanding, which has really helped you. So what do you feel is the most important understanding that people need to know when they're going through their healing journeys, besides what you just shared?
Well, first of all, they're not alone. So if they talk about it, no one's going to think they're crazy. It's going to
Yeah.
shame them. What I expected to happen didn't happen.
So good.
I was terrified when I put my book out, because the way I wrote it was from all the mind chatter in my head, right? The negative talks, the self-talks about telling myself what a bad person I was, and, all of that. So I wrote it from that perspective intentionally, because so many people talk to themselves like that. And I was terrified when I was publishing my book, because I was going to be fully exposed. And what I found was that instead, and even, some parts were so extreme, to me, I thought, oh my goodness, no one's going to resonate with that. No one's going to resonate with that. And I found there's not one part of the book that somebody didn't resonate with. So there's every single page in that book, somebody has resonated with it in one way or another. The same thoughts, the same actions, the same, beating themselves up, the same impacts, depression, anxiety, PTSD. And it didn't turn out to be what I thought it was. It turned out to be really good, because I was, being fully exposed and vulnerable was always something that I fought to control my whole life. I didn't want anyone to know I was getting beaten by my dad. I didn't want anyone to know that I was suffering. I didn't, mentally and physically. I didn't want anyone to know any of that. And now it's completely the opposite. Now I talk about it all the time.
And you're free. You have
yeah.
And you're happy, because you're not alone.
Right.
And you know that you can also help people because you've been there. And
Right.
when you've been on that journey, you can be so much more help with that because people know you know what it is. They're not going to
Right.
doubt your words because you've experienced it. And it's such a powerful teacher to work with when they've been through what you've been through.
Right.
It's the best teacher because they can totally have compassion for what you're going through, and they can
Yeah,
help.
it's interesting because when I started doing coaching and all of that, I've had other people say, well, you should really coach where, you don't tell people, you know, when you're a coach, when you're a life coach, they teach you not to resonate with people because you have to talk to them and very indifferently, like
Mm,
just ask them questions, just and for me, because when I was writing, my posts in the beginning and stuff, and it's like, I hear you, I resonate with you, I get it. And I had a few, life coaches come and message me or call me and say, you really shouldn't go about it that way because, and it's like, first of all, you got your coaching certificate, that's fine, but I've experienced it and I'm doing it because I have been there and I do resonate and I do understand. And I think that's very powerful because when I was trying to get help in the beginning, the therapist I was going to had never experienced trauma. So they
right.
didn't relate to me. So their help wasn't helping me.
It was all
Um,
cerebral. It was all from the head,
exactly.
nothing from the heart. And you're coming from the heart.
Exactly. So for me, when I say I resonate or I understand or I feel you, I do because I've been there. And I think that's important that if you are on a healing journey, to find someone that you can resonate with that has experienced what you've experienced, right? Because I think that's really important is to have someone say, I hear you and I get it.
Yeah. It was for me too when I was going into my healing journeys and also my sobriety. It was huge to be hearing other people telling my story. Oh my God, that's my story. It was so wonderful. I mean, I finally knew I was home. I've said that,
Right,
but I really felt the resonance. It just totally calmed me down. Like I'm not alone.
right,
People really do go through this. I wasn't making this up. I haven't been total victim alone. I'm not, and I was a victim too in my own mind. And then we choose not to be. Then we
right,
realize that's what we are. Because it's just crazy how you don't see it in yourself until you're ready to see it in yourself. And
right.
that's all it is, isn't it? So
Something has to click. And, for me, it was different than how it was for you. I hope somebody's listening to this and it clicks for them.
absolutely.
You have to make the choice. You
Mm.
can't be forced into change. You
Oh yeah.
have to make the choice to make that change for yourself.
Oh yeah. You gotta be willing because you gotta look at the way it helped for me. I looked at my life and said, "Am I happy?" Like you did. I'm not happy. This isn't what I want to bring to my family, and I don't want to relive what I grew up with.
Right,
Like you, and don't want to relive this again. So I need to do something about it. And that's when I joined and said, okay, I'm not bringing this to my family. We're breaking the chains now.
that's great.
And it's huge. And you did the same. You did the same. And you're bringing it to your kids. And you're breaking the chains. And your family's seeing it and they're going, wow, look at what she's doing. It's powerful. It's powerful to do that for yourself. And then it resonates out to everyone else. They all get something from it, even though they may not say it. They're all watching and learning as you are growing and sharing. And I think that's what people see. And even though they don't know how to share it sometimes, that they're getting something from it.
Yeah,
So
the best is my kids because they're teenagers, so they're old enough to say things where I know that they're proud of me and where I've been. Um, and when they were younger, I wasn't there for them, and I did impact them in negative ways. And they're dealing with some of that now as teenagers and having to cope and deal and learn and do therapy, and they're in programs, but they understand and they come to me for learning, and we're on this journey together. So I don't have guilt. I did for a lot of years, but I don't anymore because it's all of our journeys together. So I love when my kids can see the growth and change in me. And I have such a great relationship with them. And then just, that's the part that excites me the most, because I did it for them. So I'm glad it worked out for us.
Yeah, I mean, this is how it starts. We do it for everyone else, and then yet in the end, we're doing it for ourselves, which is wonderful, because that's what it's meant to be. It's meant to
Right.
be for us because it is our own journey, and then others, learn through their own journey because you brought to them what they needed on their journey. That's what we have to come to that understanding, and it takes time to get to that part too. I it can't. I used to feel so awful and responsible for things I brought to my kids. And I'm like, okay, I can't go any further with what I've tried to do to shift it. And now it's their journey. They've got to work through their journey and they're going to
Right.
learn and grow, because who knows what they brought in with their contract. This is part of their contract of what they're supposed to learn in this life earth school we're in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when people come, they after they experience the traumas, they come back into a balance. So how do you see that? How do you bring them back into balance?
Through the work that I do, most of it is identifying. I help them identify
Yep.
very. I've come up with a lot of processes and techniques that I work with people to identify. I call them life events that have impacted them. Some good, but mostly the negative ones. And then we work through identifying, what, based on that, how does it impact how they feel about who they are today, and how does it identify life expectations and triggers, and how is that, what are your values and how does that impact the values? Are you living towards your values? And so I help them kind of break down everything. I'm a very detailed analytical person, being in IT for so many years, building major, large global systems. So I do that from a mental health perspective. I help people really break apart their entire life, their entire being, from a mind, body, and emotion perspective. So everything I do is mind, body, and emotion. What are you thinking? Where are you feeling it? And what's the emotions behind it? And I help them identify all of that through, I've developed over 80 techniques,
Wow.
they're called my let it go techniques, and mindful shifts. And I help them to identify all of that and then rebuild. So once we break all that apart, we rebuild. And that's what I call the foundation of strength. So I help people rebuild their foundation of strength so they can make decisions going forward based on their value system, and a new confidence and a new mental resilience that they've built up. And through mindset techniques and also spiritual connection. So there's a lot of different ways that I help them do that, and then really start to identify, where do they want to go in life? What are their passions? Who do they want to be? And help guide them there.
Wow. I mean, that's a really amazing way you do it. I love that, because people, and I know for me that would work perfectly because it's structure. I need a lot of structure, and you've got it structured so beautifully. And I think those steps sound amazing. I mean, so what do the people get? How the outcomes been?
It's been fantastic. Oh my goodness. My clients have been, wow, they love the techniques. They use them all the time. So what I do is, some of them are daily. In the beginning, I have you do all of these daily, and we build on them, and every single day you're doing exercises, and you can do, for 10 minutes a day, an hour, or 3 hours. It depends on how motivated you are. And then eventually, you incorporate some. Others, you just pull them out when you need them, because these are tools that I've created for myself and they work for me. So, there are things that I do on a daily basis, and there are things that I do just when I really need it the most. I pull out my own worksheets and I start going through them. It's like, oh, here we go again. And so, and I also, I also help them to define which ones they could use for themselves and to modify them for themselves. Because, I don't like to give somebody, here's, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have to do it this way, right? Everybody's different. And that's why my website's called Everyday Being. And my company is called Everyday Being, because it's finding out who you are and what works for you. And so I provide all of these tools and techniques, and I help you to modify them so they become yours. Yeah. And that you can use them for yourself when and how you use them. And so, I help you to kind of align them into your lifestyle. And so that's what I call what's your everyday being. Right. And it's, it's pretty powerful, but the feedback has been phenomenal. I have, I work mainly with professionals like myself who have had a successful career, and they just feel lost. And the feedback has been just really, I mean, these are people who have had sexual traumas, domestic violence, and not all of them. Some of them think they don't have trauma, and then we uncover some. But they're releasing them and they're letting them go. And it's been so powerful. And to me, that's so rewarding that I'm having such an impact on people.
That is so exciting. It's so exciting that you're bringing that to people, because all that is needed right now, because all this trauma going on. For any of you listening that are needing somebody to help you in a trauma that you've not been willing to look at, well, I listen to Marisa. It's amazing. It's an amazing program. And, congratulations to you and to all the people that are willing to take that on and, do that self-care. It's huge self-care, radical responsibility, taking on these things for yourself, because it's what we're meant to do now. That's what we're meant to do. And that is so powerful. So, how has the pandemic benefited you personally?
Wow. I think for me, I've been able to spend a lot more time with my kids. It's really been an opportunity to focus more on my work. Mm-hmm. It was an eye opener. Last year was an eye opener. Going back to my values, I made some very, very huge life changes. Mm-hmm. Family dynamics, work dynamics, how, where I lived. I mean, huge changes. And that's been, it's been really positive, because I'm living, that was kind of it was like, I had been on this great healing journey, but there were still some things that I was holding on to. Sure. So the pandemic was an eye opener, and I thought, wow, like if this is really like the end, right? Or whatever is happening here, if the earth is transitioning into something new, what do I want to do in it? What's really my role in this? Yeah. And I decided that what I was doing was really holding me back. And it was affecting my mental health, and mental health is my number one priority every single day. Every decision I make is based on my mental health. So I made some life changes, and it's been great, because I would have never imagined a year ago that this is where I'd be today. So I'm spending more time I do a lot of volunteer work. I work with people. I work with veterans. I'm opening up a wellness center in Costa Rica with 6 other investors. We're doing so much, and it's changed my life completely, and the direction where I'm headed.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, that's what a shift. And because you took that step to just honor yourself and to do what's the best thing for yourself, now you're helping so many other people do the same thing. So will you ever move to Costa Rica? Is that in your schedule?
Yeah, possibly. I might do 6 months a year there. And
that's a nice place to commute from.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, sounds wonderful.
Well, because I'm going to be doing my program there.
Yes.
Well. So once we just opened campgrounds. They're open now. Next year, we're going to open the wellness center. And then a year after that, we're going to do the housing. So it'll be a couple of years, but once the wellness center is open, I'm going to bring my program there.
That's fantastic. Wow.
Yeah.
Now you're doing huge world service. Huge world service. That's amazing. Amazing.
I'm
Oh,
enjoying
that's
it.
your passion. Yeah. So what's any final message you have for people right now?
Just stay calm. The chaos, if you see the world as chaos,
Mhm.
know that there's a balance, and
Mhm.
there's just as much good out there as there is bad, right? And I hate to say good or bad, it's positive or negative, I usually say. But if you see the negative, there's always a positive, right? And so just focus on yourself. Don't get too caught up in what's happening around you. You can only control your life, right? You can't control everything else that's happening. So just focus on yourself. Find out who you are. Try to get back to your authentic self. We tend to lose ourselves with the people we surround ourselves with society, our community. And we might wake up one day and know who I am anymore. So try to get in touch with your authentic self, and then live life with what makes you happy. And
Mm.
when you do that, the people who you care about will support you, and it impacts as well. So
Yeah.
that's my
Thank you. Those
tip.
are those are really wonderful. So Marissa, I know that you have a gift to share with the audience. Would you like to share it? Do you have it there?
I do. So this is my Let It Go and Release Your Burden challenge. It's a
Okay.
challenge.
Yep. Yep.
So it's what I talked about earlier, where you take a life event.
And
And
it'll all be on the email that they get. They'll get it when they can
okay.
listen to it. There'll be PDF.
So I start off with the question, what is the most important thing you want to change about yourself, and why?
Mm.
And then it goes through a series of questions to help for one life event. You pick one life event, and you walk through a scenario where you answer a bunch of questions to identify expectations and triggers behind that, the impact, the burden that you still carry from it, and the value that it's related to. And then, the final question is what actions are you going to take going forward now that you have this knowledge?
Mm.
So it's a mini version of my foundation of strength, building that to help you identify. So hopefully you can resonate with it, and it helps you out. And you can print it and do it for as many life events as you want to.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing, because I don't think we take that time to really sift through our life and say what has been affecting me, because we
Right.
don't, and do half of us don't even know what our values are. Sometimes we just
Exactly.
gotten so busy, we're so distracted that we don't look at what is it, like we've said, truly important in our lives.
Right.
And was there anything else? I can't remember.
Yeah, so I have a course called Resolving Fears in Uncertain Times. I
Oh,
wrote that last year, and it's you can get it through my website. Janet will provide the link.
yep.
But I think you'll really like the course. It's a walkthrough self practice. There's a 60-page downloadable journal
Oh,
with
wow.
prompts for you to do exercises to walk through it, and I think you'll really enjoy it. It's a great course. There's 4 modules. There's a couple hours of videos and walk through exercises with the journal.
This is a great first step for people to take that dive, because until you do those things, you don't have clarity. You really,
Right.
because I know I've had to do it myself. And if you don't do it, I've written pages and pages and pages, and like you think it's not redundant. It's really just emptying yourself
Right.
and then allowing yourself to see. So that's a wonderful, wonderful offer. Thank you so much, Marissa. And I'm going to thank the audience for joining us today. And I hope that you've enjoyed this. I thought it was really such a valuable, fantastic talk today, Marissa. And you can email us your feedback, your comments, and let us know, what you think, or you can email Marisa directly, but we'll have all that below for you. And Marisa, I am so grateful to know you and to see all that you're doing and owning your own light, because you are owning your divine light, because you are a brilliant beacon of light that is so needed right now. And you're bringing so much to the world and to people to become all they're meant to be, to become their everyday being. That is so important, and to love who they are. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Janet. I'm
So
so glad I'm on the show. I'm so excited. I love your work. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm really glad to be able to share what I know with your audience, and I hope they resonated with it and got something out of it. So thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much again. And I am Isla Serrano Miller, and I will see you on the next episode.